This is the Retirement Solution Podcast with financial advisor John Hicks, founder of J. Hagan Capital.
And I'm Heather Branch here with John, asking for his insight on the things you need to know about, need to be thinking about, need to be working on when it comes to your financial future. You have spent many decades working and saving, and now we're going to help you make sure that money is here to work hard for you in your retirement years. RetirementSolutionsShow.com is our website and where you can begin the conversation with John and his team at J. Hagan Capital. We also have links posted in the show notes, or again, it's RetirementSolutionsShow.com. I don't know if you did the rabbit hole thing. When it comes to, holidays, there's always sitting around time where you're just sitting there in front of the TV football, or you're sitting in, your mom's living room or whatever, and there's the phone in hand, and then the messages are coming through, sale, buy. Because we were at my in-laws' house, and it dawned on me about the second day, the convenience, how easy it is to spend the money.
Without question. You don't have to even pull out a card. You just press a button.
Tap.
It used to be, I remember my father would say, hey, if you spend cash, it's harder to part with than if you just pull out a piece of plastic.
Yep.
And now they've taken it one step further. Now there's not cash, certainly. There's not even a card. You literally just tap a button that's attached to your card or your bank account, and they can just suck it from you. I was like, I need some Tums. So I go to, for whatever reason, right?
Because of all this money that's
because I hear it's high in calcium anyway. So I'm just like, I'm like, I don't want to go to the store and get this stuff, but I'll forget. So I go to Amazon and I order one $4 package of Tums, and I'll be danged if the next day it didn't arrive. One package of Tums. And I was just like,
so easy.
Oh yeah. I did need that.
I feel like they're getting smarter too with the time frames they put on it, because they're like, if you order now, if you order within the next 30 minutes, it can be there by 8 o'clock tonight or 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. So now they know how to put the pressure on.
Genius. In
the meantime, I don't want to talk about my credit card bill.
Well, this is the bad time of year to discuss those things.
Right.
This is the bad time of year. We'll lament everything that we're doing now in the beginning of next year as we're making all of the, the new, what resolutions?
Right.
It's like, I am not going to push that stupid button on Black Friday, Cyber Monday, Crazy Tuesday, Taco Wednesday. No, it's Taco Tuesday, crazy. Whatever it is. I'm not doing that next year. That's what I'm going to do for myself.
Try to eradicate all of the bad choices that we made in the weeks previous.
I think what would be genius is if plastic surgeons got involved at the very beginning of the year. Plastic surgeons should have that touch right now for Botox, for filler, for quick liposuction, for all those stupid things you just did, over the holidays. I mean, it's probably not the right thing for people to consider. But I mean, if we're just out there touching, like, I do feel like my butt size getting a little on the larger side. Maybe I just go in there, suck a little bit of that out.
Welcome to America.
Nip and tuck.
Capitalism, marketing. Listen, we're not allowed to
15% off one butt cheek right now. Yes, ma'am. Sign me up. I could use a little bit of that.
It's the perfect marketing plan, because you can't do one without the other. So
that's right. It's right. It's like, hey, just give me that double thing of Doritos, the party size, and then give me some lipo on the side, please.
The idea of our bad spending behaviors, though. Can we seek solace knowing that we're not alone? Because it goes all the way up. It goes all the way up the flagpole, everybody, and you already know it. So maybe it's this. It's like it's like the parent teaches the children problem situations that we're encountering here. The national debt is so big, you can't comprehend it. You can't begin to relate.
Hold on, it's hard to get your head around $36 trillion. Oh, that's already too old. 36.1 that's already old. 36.2. Literally, it goes up that fast. It's 36 trillion with a T.
It caters into this whole thing we were just talking about with like the spending, the credit card thing. Of course, we're $36 trillion, and because it's easy to do. You can just spend it without thinking about actual currency, about actual consequence. Sure. If you were to go back to 1994, we were at $4.7 trillion. Now, 30 years later, we're at $36 trillion. To put it in perspective, to allow you to wrap your head around it a little bit, that would kind of be like a family with a household income of $50,000 having credit card debt of $330,000.
Okay, let's say that again. So basically, the United States, when you look at it, like we went from almost just a little less than $5 trillion of debt
in 30 years
over
time.
$36 trillion over 30 years. That's like a family that has a $50,000 annual income having over, how much did you say?
$330,000 in debt.
$1,000.
Can you imagine having an annual income of $50,000 and being faced with that kind of debt? You'd be like, I'm never going to pay it off.
It's crushing. It's crushing.
Yeah.
You know, that's the whole thing. And that's what keeps a lot of people up at night, right? Debt, fear of how they're going to pay it off, fear what would happen if they get ill and that kind of stuff. But we learned from the best. We learned from the greatest spenders in the history of the planet. The government. The government has done a great job, which I find very interesting, right? So if you're listening or reading to any of the stuff that's going on with the new administration or new administration to be, you know, they're talking about Ramaswamy and Elon Musk starting the DOGE, right? The Department of Government Efficiencies, and they figure that they can cut the total federal deficit by a tremendous amount. By a tremendous amount, they say they could potentially reduce government spending by 25%.
Okay.
And here's the interesting thing about that, Heather.
Yeah.
If they do that, because the biggest things that our government spends on is Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and interest on the debt. You have to take those out. Those are statutory. They can't do anything about those.
Yep.
But if you actually did reduce the rest of the government budget by 25%, if you reduced it, it would be a whopping 2% a year in total savings. Oh my God.
That's it.
When you think about that, isn't that staggering? If they cut everything across the board, wow, 2% savings. That makes it that much of a big deal that we have $36 trillion of debt, guys. It's a big deal. So at one point in time, even though Trump is promising, or at least his people are alluding to the fact that they're going to potentially do more tax cuts or elongate the tax, lower tax environment. Guys, there's just no physical way in time that we can continue to do that. Now, here's the thing. Would I like to pay a little bit less in taxes? Of course. Sure. But we'll get to a point to where there is nothing left to leave our kids or grandkids or great-grandkids. We'll all be wards of the state because that's just the situation we're in. So again, it's not doom and gloom, but something will have to give at some point in time. There's just no question about it.
Right. When we think about, because you meet with these people every single day, John, people that have worked hard, small business owners that are coming to you. I just sold my business for $10 million. I've been working for this guy my whole life. I got $5 million. Is there things that we can do on a micro level then to think about how to protect our money from this debt's going to get paid off one way or the other? You have to imagine they're going to turn around and look at us and say, hey, Americans, pay up. What can we do now to better protect ourselves?
One of the biggest things that I learned when I was going back to basically study taxation and accounting was not all dollars are taxed the same, period. Now, do all dollars spend the same? Yeah, pretty much. I mean, a dollar's a dollar. You know, inflation goes up, inflation goes down, but realistically, a dollar's a dollar. But they're not all taxed the same. Some dollars are not taxed at all. That would be like in your Roth IRA. Like once you put that dollar into that Roth IRA, and let's say it grows to $10, you never pay taxes again if you follow the rules. It's not complicated. It's pretty easy.
Right.
Now, here's what most of us have done. They either have tax or they either have money. They have a dollar in a CD at the bank or money market, right? And why do we do that? Well, frankly, because they've been paying us a lot of money recently. You know, 4.5%, 5%.
Yeah.
I think I still remember. I think I had one account for several months. I paid like 5.5% on completely liquid money market funds. I mean, that's pretty good until you realize when you factor taxes in, I was getting about half that. I was really getting only about half of the 5.5% they were paying me. Because why? Because those accounts are taxed every single year in perpetuity, right? Yeah. So right now, even though that one person can have a dollar at the bank, they may be paying taxes every single year. Some person may have that same dollar in a Roth. Once they got it in there, they will potentially never pay taxes again, no matter what it grows to. But then there's this middle group. And this is the majority of us, right? The middle group are people that they worked hard, they put their money away, they didn't sell a business and just get a check for $10 million. They put their money in their 401ks or their IRAs, and they have hundreds of thousands of dollars. And here's the sad part about that. We got a tax break when we put that money in. Okay. We got a tax break when we put it in. I was like, well, John, why is that the sad part? Well, because that benefit is now over. It's been over for some of us for years or even decades. And at this point now, when we want to utilize that money, when we want to touch it, when we want to spend it, to consume it, to use for monthly income, now we have to pay the government. Now we do. So we may have put a dollar in, but we may only get 70 cents back out after we pay taxes, right?
Okay.
And so some of us, unfortunately, are going to get the wrong end of the stick. Let's say that we saved really well and we're in a higher tax bracket in retirement compared to when we were actually working. And I know people say, John, that doesn't make any sense. I see it literally every single week in my office where a couple will say, John, we worked our tails off. We put our kids through college. We did all the right things. You know, we never really made a ton of money. Household income, roughly $100,000. You know, when it's all said and done, we were roughly in like the 22% tax bracket. Okay. So when they put their money in those 401ks, they get a 22% tax break. But because they did such a good job saving, now they're at a point where in retirement, when you count in their Social Security and potentially their pensions or what they have to pull up for RMD, they may have a $200,000 income, and now they're in a higher tax bracket in retirement. So they get a 22% savings to go in, and they may pay closer to 30% to pull it out. And so when you think about that, that's rough. So if we look at our debt and we look at these issues, there are things that we can do. And it's not saving money, it's tax shifting, or what I like to call asset location.
Okay.
Where you have that dollar will dictate how you're taxed in the future. Many of us are just unaware. There are some very smooth and yet very simple ways to where we can reposition money on an annual basis and potentially save 20 or 30% of our future tax bill. Now, this also happens if we may have a ton of savings and we just know we're never going to spend it. Well, if your kids are successful, they may pay 40% in taxes to pull that money out, even though you yourself are just in a 20% bracket now. Your kids are going to give away 50% more of what you're giving them. But there are ways around that. There are all kinds of ways that you can use trusts, where you can use different type of strategies to relocate the assets, and you don't just have to give it to charity. Now, the people that are charitably inclined, I love it, because that means that all that hard work you did, you can give 100% to a charity of your choice, and you'll never have to feel bad about that at all. The government didn't get any of that. But for the majority of us, we don't want to give it necessarily all to a charity. That's perfectly acceptable. We just want to make sure that we're not only giving our kids 50% of what they deserve. If you're not sure about how that works out, or if you know, I just got more money than I know I'm going to spend in my lifetime, even no matter how hard I try, maybe you should give our team a call. Find out what your opportunities are, because I promise you one thing, with $36 trillion of national debt, and the president-elect is already talking about potentially keeping the current tax cuts and or reducing them, we got to be careful that we don't kick the can so far down to where it just gets smushed and crushed under the weight of someone else's future boot.
Carpe diem, seizing the advantages that are in front of you right now, that you know of right now. This is the kind of work John and his team are doing every single day at J. Hagan Capital, and are here to help you with as well, helping you understand what your opportunities might be, the idea about asset location and where do you have your dollars, and could simple shifts mean more money for you in retirement? Let's get to work finding out. Visit us at retirementsolutionshow.com so we can start the conversation about your tax-saving opportunities. We also have links posted in the show notes, or again, it's retirementsolutionshow.com.
Thanks for listening to the Retirement Solution Podcast with John Hicks. Begin the conversation about your savings plan with John and the team at J. Hagan Capital by visiting retirementsolutionradio.com. Be sure to listen to John's radio show, The Retirement Solution, Saturdays at 8 a.m. and Sundays at 9 a.m. on News Radio 840 WHAS.
J. Hagan Capital Incorporated is not licensed in all 50 states. To find out if J. Hagan Capital Incorporated is licensed in your state, please call 502-690-5635. J. Hagan Capital Incorporated is not affiliated with nor endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency, and does not provide legal or tax advice. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance and annuity products offered through J. Hagan Capital, LLC, NPN number 1882794.